Welcome back to Houselights, your one-stop shop for everything you need to hear about this week in the world of entertainment. As always, I'm your host, Liz Nas, joined by my beautiful and wonderful co-host,
Claire Donahoe.
And today we have a very special guest. Introduce yourself.
How's it going, everybody? Jacob Smith, marketing coordinator here at the State News.
And new host of Sports Roundtable.
Check it out. You don't want to miss it.
Check it out. What'd you just talk about on Sports Roundtable?
Yeah, filmed that yesterday, actually. Me and Luke Joseph chopped it up. We were talking a little bit about MSU sports. We've been on a heater. Like, every sport's playing well. So it's been very nice to kind of follow that trend, and very exciting stuff. So I recommend checking out the episode.
You are such a podcast guy.
Yeah,
like, you have like your own podcast voice and everything. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was next to a professional right now. Me and Claire just like blah, 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 on the, and then you actually have like a podcast personality and like things to say.
Yeah.
So but yeah, today we're gonna talk a little. We're gonna be serious today. We're being serious journalists, and all because of Claire and her genius.
True.
So today we're going to talk about TikTok and the TikTok ban, some of the responses from, the world, because everyone's on TikTok. Well, and that's a statistic, every single person. And that's not true. And just maybe some of the political nuance behind it. And Claire here did research today, like for a real podcast.
I did.
And pulled together some history of it. So,
yes. Claire,
first of all, I want you to answer why you were so interested in doing this, and also give us a little bit of that opening context.
Okay.
As it says in our notes right here.
Well, yes, I've been interested in this because of all the discussion that's been going around pre-ban, post-ban. Like, TikTok is back, as we all know. And I don't know. My roommates and I were talking about it a ton, and then I just feel like it was important to talk about, especially here, like with journalism, marketing, things that we even use it for outside of just personal use. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just think there's more to the conversation than like, oh, I like this app, it's going away. It seems like, especially the context of time with which all this went down. So yeah, I'm going to do kind of a brief timeline of why TikTok is even in this conversation and why we're having an entire episode devoted to it. This following set of bullet points is from AP News and something called Tech Target, which is a cybersecurity situation. Anyway, so the government has long been wary of TikTok, which I feel like at this point is just general knowledge, because there's claims that it, is bad for cybersecurity, data, like maintenance, stealing data, all that stuff, because it's not owned by an American company, and they're angry about it. So in 2019, which I just learned this, the Pentagon banned TikTok on all military phones, because they were just so wary of its like international pull. Meanwhile, it becomes the second most downloaded app in the United States. So it's interesting that throughout this whole timeline, despite these slow kind of, pulls to keep TikTok back, it still just keeps running full force and gets more and more popular as the years go on. Later in 2019, Trump, who was in office at the time, proposes a TikTok ban as the government is like getting even more weary of data storage and that it wasn't an American app. Biden comes into office and then kind of picks this back up. So Trump says that, and I think something we'll talk about later is one thing about Trump is he says a lot of things, and with how fast news comes out, which a lot of things also circulate on TikTok super fast, it's very hard to keep up with it all. And I think that kind of got lost in there. Like, we're going to get rid of TikTok, and then it didn't happen. And then when it comes back and it looks like all the messages are about Trump resurrecting it, it's quite strange. So Biden comes into office, picks it back up, signs legislation in April of 2024 requiring that TikTok's China-based parent, ByteDance, sells to a U.S. owner within a year or shuts it down in America, losing 170 million American users. And Biden says you have until January 19th, 2025 to get this done. Obviously, they didn't like that, so they filed a lawsuit against the U.S., and the struggle just kind of continues. Meanwhile, people are still using the app. Nothing has really changed for, the mass public. And a lot of people don't even know truly if it's... you hear a lot of people say, is it even going to get banned this time? Because this threat was just kind of like the boy who cried wolf situation for people who weren't going to do, obviously comb through, lots and lots of paperwork on all of this, which is totally understandable. So in March of 2024, the House of Representatives passes this ban or sell bill. They're on board. It's happening. And the bill is called Protecting Americans from the Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications, basically protecting America from TikTok. Trump asks for it to be paused approaching his inauguration. And the whole thing then starts to look very weird from a civilian standpoint. I didn't read like congressional data about this, but from a general point of view, it looked, and people were saying that it looked like Trump was like saving the day because it was banned. And then hours later, it's resurrected with the message, like, you can all thank President Trump, who wasn't president quite yet. He was hours away. So the timing of this whole thing is just something that seems unusual to me, which is why I really wanted to talk about it. Also, because TikTok's just so huge. And it was very briefly banned on January 19th, revived hours later with a brief message from Trump the day before his inauguration. The app is currently live, but only for 90 days because they gave ByteDance an extension. Essentially, you have 90 days to comply with our law. But then once again, you have the general public saying like, yeah, well, it's just going to stay. Like, there's no way they actually get rid of it.
Right.
This is interesting, which Liz actually brought this to my attention. Users with TikTok installed can still access it. So I had it and then couldn't access it for like 12 hours, and then it comes back. But if you don't have the app or you deleted it, you currently cannot download it back, which I did not know.
Which is true.
Yeah, just a lot of back and forth. And then this, of course, obviously causes a lot of discourse on the app from creators who make money on TikTok, who don't, who just enjoy using it. And quite a big response came from it socially.
That's what I want to talk about, because you're bringing up all this stuff about like the pushback, like the fear. Where is it? Where is the message coming from that like TikTok needs to stay? Like maybe in both of your guys' like research or like just your opinion. Where is this like it needs to stay coming from? Because I feel like there's a lot of fear behind.
It's definitely coming from, I would just say, like the general public,
right?
Users of the app is primarily what I'd say.
Yeah.
Which comes from, I believe, like a lack of understanding of why they're trying to ban it, combined with the rhetoric that politicians are using, which is creating, everything is extremely divisive. Like, need I even say that? Right. But saying things like, we're going to take it away, we're going to ban it, like then, that causes people to be like, we need to rebel against this. Like if you have one set of language going one way, you're going to get a more dramatic response. So I think a lot of just miscommunication circulating. My favorite topic ever, which is just echo chambers, specifically like on TikTok. Like people are just getting fueled like, yeah, we don't want this to go away. And that's where the outcry is kind of coming from. And things snowball so fast as well. Right.
And I think it's also about, freedom of speech is like this really big, fear that people are having that like, okay, if you take away an app that, 170 million Americans use, then that's 170 million more voices that are not being heard on this app.
Definitely in the context of Trump's presidency and him being more conservative, people are associating that with like right at a time where we are circulating a ton of, let's say, like unfiltered political information right as someone's transitioning into office. Like there were a lot of claims going like, this is fishy, this is an attack on free speech in the digital age, this has gone on so long. Right. At one point you were behind it, now when you're about to be in office, you're suddenly gonna like be on our side. Like it just seemed like a lot of PR related moves. That's like the wrong word for it.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, I agree too. I think you guys kind of brought up a good point about the freedom of speech aspects. Like TikTok is a career for plenty of its users. A good portion of the population on TikTok relies on it for an income, relies on it for a way to make money, relies on it just to express themselves and stuff like that. And that's where I feel like people kind of were scared and really couldn't handle it in a way. Like people were, this had a genuine impact culturally, physically, mentally on like a lot of good portion of its users. And I think it's just because the career standpoint, like some people make videos for a living. TikTok does pay its creators very, very well compared to other social media apps. Yeah. And I think that's also one of the biggest reasons why some of these creators really didn't know what to do, what their future looks like, how they're going to make money going forward, especially with the threat of having to move to other apps or stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. And with the thing about like all these people actually like depend on TikTok for their career, for their, their money. I going through every, local news outlet, they were, obviously trying to localize the TikTok story, and every single one was like local creator that makes like six figures on TikTok is now gonna have to file for unemployment, and like what are they gonna do now? And it's just like almost every single small town has that creator that got their big start from that, and now it's kind of just like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Because obviously there's like most people that I know personally are like, oh, what am I gonna do before I go to bed at night? Like, I feel like that's
Right.
like the post that I kept seeing, like, how am I gonna get to sleep if I'm not watching TikTok?
Right.
Instagram Reels, obviously. Don't do that. It's really scary. But then it's also like, okay, but what am I gonna do for like a job? And
Yeah.
like, are we gonna get another Secret Lives of Mormon Wives then? And that's not really the focus, but I just thought of it.
Right. There's a lot riding on it. I also think the outcry was so high, one, because of the population of users, but two, because there was so much of that slow, weird build-up back and forth, will they, won't they, no one actually really believed it was ever going to go away. So when it did, it felt probably, for many people who are especially depending on it for an income, extremely sudden.
Right.
And that obviously causes even more heightened emotions. It's not like they had time to put their 2 weeks in from TikTok. I mean, they did, if you look at these these research points, but they didn't know that because the public wasn't really being cohesively informed, all of them at once, with the same information about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. And that is a huge reason why. And then on top of, people feeling really passionately about free speech and how information circulated, so many people coming out like towards the end, which we can talk about, like the response and trends that kind of started in the final days of TikTok. But people saying, I've learned so much on this app. There's so many things that I just would not have gathered from my local news source, not because in a failure of reporting, but just in how quickly you can gather information and connect with people who you wouldn't have otherwise.
Not to jump to the journalism thing, but there is this like feeling of a lack of reporting on many, many topics in the mainstream media. And I think a lot of people found that independent journalism on TikTok. And they feel like, and that's like part of the free speech thing, is like, they feel like a lot of journalists, and this is a conversation I had in my broadcast journalism class actually, a lot of journalists at like big media companies, whether that be broadcast or like the big four newspapers, New York Times, whatever, like have these editorial pressures to not, focus on things. A lot of times on TikTok they were talking about like, Israel and Palestine and stuff like that, that like they just felt like they couldn't get that news from like mainstream media because that's not what the board wants, or that's not what donors to mainstream media want. But there was so much independent journalism on TikTok that they felt like they could tap into, and now that's like gone.
And very accessible as well. I mean, you see professionals in fields not in news. Like just the other day I came across a TikTok of someone who's pursuing her master's in public health. Yeah. And she was like, I'm going to start making TikToks about what I learn in my classes. I mean, she's not a news anchor, and she would never be sharing that really any other way. But she's a professional in her field and can make that information very accessible, especially as you enter a presidency where that's becoming not so for the time being. So, yeah. Do we want to talk about responses?
Yeah, I was about to be like,
and then we can talk about alternatives
like,
as well.
That moment of like, well, and it also happened like hours early as well.
Right. Everyone thought that it was going to be like January 19th,
like 12:01.
And it was hours before, because my roommates were like, I wanted one more. The same thing. Like, I wanted one more scroll before bed. Like, but okay, who would like to start with their experience when TikTok went? Okay, well, I was with my roommates. We were at the bar, and we came home. And I was putting something on TV, and one of my roommates just like lets out this scream, and she's like, "No, what are they doing? Like, I just wanted to come home, take off my shoes, sit down, and watch TikTok before it goes away." And then we all went on our phones, and we realized that message pops up that's like, "It's currently unavailable," and it just wouldn't let you
it literally
access
wouldn't let
it,
you scroll.
which felt very, very eerie. And I kind of was like, "Okay, this is definitely a moment in history." Truly, I was like, "This is very bizarre." So we just kind of talked about it, and I was like, "This is just so unfortunate." Before I knew it was going to go...
Also posted on your private story.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, then I went on a rant on my private Snapchat story, which, solves all the world's problems all the time, just to people who agree with my friends. But before TikTok went away, I even fell into the, like, goodbye TikTok thing. Like, I post... like creative writing on TikTok. Well, and
so much to talk about.
And I made a video that was like, if this goes away, like, this is where you can find my work. And like, this is super, like, I just candidly, the video was kind of like, this is super weird, and it feels weird to even like make this, but I saw so many other people doing it, and this time I actually believed it was going to be banned, and it momentarily was. So the whole thing just felt very weird, and I'm going to say dystopian, just to sit there and be like, oh, we can't use it. And I don't know. You could think about it like it's just an app. Like, what do you mean you could log on an app? But it's so big. Like it was more than that.
It's a way of life for like everybody, and like that's the way you communicate with all your friends. But before we go, I want to actually ask you about, because like if you don't know, Claire Naho is a great writer.
Well, thank you.
And she has a very big following on, or have you seen the followers dip down? Like because like people are on.
It's been like about the same. I mean,
deleted the app.
I slowed down like I definitely slowed down posting because I was like, this just feels very bizarre. Like if it's going away, and it was weird. And then people, I mean, it was nice of them, but people were commenting like. Someone commented, "Oh, I'm gonna be so sad when you get off this app," and someone was like, "Oh my God, are you American?" No, I'm like, okay, this is getting weird.
Well, yes, I have an American accent.
I was like, well, yes. Sorry, I'll be leaving in a week. It was very weird.
About Michigan many times. Actually, it's like one of the core things you write about.
It was a very strange.
But like, how do you like? Are you gonna move to a different app? Like, how does it feel to see like that thing that you've like grown? Like,
yeah. So fortunately, because I started doing it on Instagram, that was just kind of, I just kind of started doing TikTok to practice like reading the pieces out loud, and it ended up just kind of like starting to work out, which was wonderful. And in that like goodbye video, I had just kind of said like, I don't know what's going, like this is weird, but like you can find my work other places. I didn't really plan to like go to another app or anything like that. It's not like I have like hundreds of thousands of followers. Like I was like, this is fine. But it was quite strange. And then I posted again when the app went live again. And in that video just kind of addressed like, this is super weird. Like, I don't want to just make a video that's like, here's a poem for you, as this app was like dark for however long. So yeah, kind of not really like a very polished sounding answer, but it was just strange. And then watching my friends kind of react on all levels. I mean, we all have our own personal reasons why we were sad TikTok went, whether it just be the doom scroll before bed or larger implications of like you make money or this is how you share political, social knowledge. So I don't know. It was weird. But yeah, the loud, anguished cry from my roommate really like summed it up. She was like, "What are they doing?" I was like, let's just go to bed.
Like, okay, good night.
Yeah.
Jacob.
Yeah, my experience was a little bit different than Claire's, but
no screaming.
Yeah, well, I would not from me, but from some of the other people in the room. I was actually at my friend's house watching the Lions game because we live in Michigan, where the Detroit Lions are huge here. I am a diehard Lions fan, but this was like the one day for me. I was like, all right, the Lions are on, guys. Like and this is one of the first times I've watched a game, like especially a playoff game, because I haven't seen many. But like at my friend's house, I'm normally kind of just locked in my own apartment by myself because I want to watch. But I was like, you know what, I'll go to my friends today. And obviously, I knew the TikTok ban was going to be the day after, or at least supposed to be. I'll get to the sudden point of it being banned, but I was really kind of just trying to watch the game, and then all of a sudden I just hear screams. I'm like, well, there's not a big play. It's not like Jahmyr Gibbs is running down the field or anything, but everybody's like, oh no, like TikTok, like it's not working. And I'm like, oh, well, here we go. But also, it's significant because you're gonna remember that. I'm gonna remember that for the rest of my life, where I was when that was banned, for the moment being. But it was really just crazy. Like everybody kind of started to kind of halt at the same time and pull out their phones, check, oh wait, hold on, it's not working for me either. But I actually had a few, like one of my roommate who was sitting right next to me at the time, he was actually still able to scroll a little bit. So like people like had the message, the ban message where it's like, thank you, whatever, like you can't use your app right now. And my friend, like it wasn't the prettiest scroll. Like there was a lot of lag and a lot of unusual videos.
He was fighting the shutdown.
Yeah, he was like, I'm gonna do it until I can't anymore. But like there was some people with different like screens, like they could scroll still, and that was just very interesting. I'm not the biggest TikTok user myself. I will use it occasionally, maybe once a day or so, and I still am very up to date with cultural and TikTok trends and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's obviously significant. It was very different. I think, Claire, you mentioned before the suddenness of this being banned. Like we all thought it was going to be the day after, and then all of a sudden when this message keeps coming up, like I even got my phone. I think the Lions were on offense. I pulled up my phone. I'm like, well, if everybody else is going to check, I mean, I might as well. But it was definitely very unusual. It's an experience that I can't really recall myself ever having before, especially just with an app that has this much significance. I don't think we're probably going to see anything like that for a while. Like TikTok has become probably hands down the biggest social media app of history since social media existed. 170 million users in America alone is just crazy. But it's like kind of something that everybody can just come together and relate to, whether it was for a sad reason where it was momentarily banned, or when we all rejoiced the next day when it came back or hours later or whatever. It was definitely just very interesting just to be there, and for, like I said, for someone that doesn't use it as often, to still be able to experience it and be like, wow, this is really happening, I guess.
Yeah.
It was very different.
So you guys weren't personally affected by Vine going down when it did?
So no, actually, I was
What? That's insane. No, if I get out like my old iPad, which I had from maybe like 5th and 6th grade, if I get out, Vine is still on there. I've tried, you can't get on it, but like I lost so many One Direction edits that day, and like 6th grade me was really, really upset about it. But Vine was like a big thing for me, and then I was like, it's just all over again. They just want to take away my edits folder. But no, actually, one of the last times I pre-gamed with Miss Campbell Berg, who is a multimedia reporter here, we conglomerated all of our edits, and that was our pre-game before we went out to the bars
really
to
special.
get to say goodbye to TikTok.
Yeah, people were doing like tiny little ceremonies, or like I even
we did.
noted on here, people like throw back to this trend. This is what started it all, and it's like a really old dance video.
Oh
like,
yeah,
people are
those
coming
were
together.
scary. Those freaked me out.
Or like people, I don't know. I had a couple friends just like post a bunch of like their super old drafts, or like we were going through a bunch of stuff. Like people with their friends both on and off the app are having like little tiny goodbye parties.
And here's
free
the
game
thing.
or not, but
I went free game or not, but no, so I did have a ceremony. I do love my TikTok edits, but at the same time, right before, like a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, like I'm really upset. Like again, Miss Campbell Berg is a great representation of this. She was just really upset about TikTok. She's gained also a little bit of a following because she posts a lot of her concert videos that she's taken at like Taylor Swift. She goes to a lot of concerts, so she posts like these concert videos, and they've gotten like a lot of likes. And so she was very upset. Personally, I kept saying that it was going to change my life for the better because I'm so sick of doom scrolling. So, I was one of the people that deleted it immediately because I was so excited. I actually rejoiced, and I did get some, crappy looks at the bar. Because, okay, so let me say, with the minute that it happened, I was at Dublin Square.
moment of silence for that decision.
I can't believe I wasn't at the Riv. But I was at Dublin Square watching the Lions game when TikTok went to also watch the Lions game, and I don't even care about the Lions that much, but I mean it's exciting when they win, but I'm not like woo. But they lost.
I was at
so everybody was really upset. The vibe in Dublin Square was somber.
It was bad.
They got double hit. They got shot chasered with TikTok ban, Lions loss.
That's what my other roommate kept saying.
Bad.
I left Tin Can from watching the Lions at halftime, and my other roommates came home and were like, this night just keeps getting worse because they lost. And I was like, oh, we all need to go to bed. Like, they just keep coming in. I'm like, this has to end.
Please go to bed.
Yeah.
No, it was a very somber vibe. I was with a Commanders fan, so I was rejoicing about TikTok. She was rejoicing about Commanders, so we were all getting crappy looks in the bar, and I said, we need to go home and get pizza.
Yeah,
that's what we did, and we watched Victorious because we regressed back to our childhood entertainment instead of our adult entertainment. And that was like the theme.
Sounds like I'm happy you had such a positive...
I did.
Personally, for you, this is good. Yeah.
I personally had a great time watching Victorious. But yeah, I guess I am a little. I am still sad that TikTok is I guess not for anybody else, but it is banned for me because I immediately was like, yes, delete app. But my mom now keeps sending me texts of the TikToks, and then it seems like she just keeps forgetting because I'll go, Mom, I don't have TikTok anymore. She'll be like, why did you do that? And I'm like, you've sent me 3 TikToks now, and I keep saying I don't have it. She's like, that's so dumb. And I'm like, sorry. No, my mom was very upset. She called me while I was at the bar. She goes, and she left a voicemail and said, you won't believe I was scrolling through TikTok and then it just turned off on me. Call me back by. I'm like, I can't. I'm in Dublin Square. But I'm so sorry, Christine. She's very attached to TikTok.
Really?
She loves her teacher TikToks. She said she's an English teacher, so she gets her book recommendation. No, she was
I feel bad for the teachers of TikTok.
No, she's really, she's upset about, she's getting rid of the teacher TikTok. She really liked getting recipes. She's distraught.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are distraught because they like to learn new things.
Well, it's just, like the whole concept of circulating knowledge, whether that's really intense knowledge, like political stuff, or a recipe or something. And that's also a lot of people before, during, and after the ban were stressing like moments in history where governments were like banning apps and like talking about this being a form of censorship and like stressing that we examine this larger conversation of, you know, what do we do, how else, and then people trying to organize, you know, immediately to other apps, which we'll have Jacob kind of talk about with.
Yeah, it's a perfect segue. So, I mean, that's kind of the major outcry of the ban after TikTok. Like, people were like, well, what next? Because obviously this was such a big part of people's routines and their daily routines, their lives in general, people of all ages, like your mom, kids, like everybody's on this app. So I guess like the immediate jump to conclusion for everybody is like, well, what do I do next? And there were two apps that really kind of surged the biggest out of this TikTok ban. Red Note being the biggest. This was an app that was launched in 2013. It was also a Chinese app. So that was kind of the big thing of why like TikTok was not going to succeed anymore. Like at least that the U.S. administration wanted to ban it is because it was not owned by a U.S. company. It was not owned by U.S. officials. It was owned by a Chinese company. So Red Note, like everybody was jumping this app, but it's the same exact problem as TikTok.
Yeah.
Like it's still owned by China, and it's still currently under Chinese ownership. It started more as like a shopping guide app, but it has evolved into a video app that features algorithmic videos similar to what TikTok does. The more you engage in certain content, the more of that similar content you're going to keep seeing every time you log onto the app. So it's very similar in that aspect, but it was actually the top downloaded app, like free app on the U.S. App Store following the TikTok ban. So the people that jumped ship right away were serious about it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it jumped all the way up to number 1 on the U.S. App Store free apps chart, which is very significant. It's not easy to go on top of that chart. And then the other one that was kind of still gained some popularity, not as much as Red Note, even if popularity is the right word, just because people were just desperate. But Lemonade was the other app that people jumped to. It's an app that allows you to create videos and share them, similar to TikTok, but it was more used for like photo carousels, recommendations, more like motivational stuff. Not as much what TikTok was. TikTok's very random in terms of its content. Like you got people that'll dance, you got people that'll make jokes, you got people that are just generally happy. So this was more for motivational purposes, but Lemonade is owned by ByteDance, the same company that owns TikTok. So yet again, we see the same problem that's prevalent. People are jumping ship from TikTok to another app, but these other apps that they're jumping to are under the same ownership, Chinese ownership, so it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And also, sorry to put the comment on one more, but CapCut is also an app that got shut down, and it's still currently in the same space as TikTok. Like if you have it, I think it's fine, but if you deleted CapCut along with the TikTok ban, you can't access CapCut as well. If you don't know what CapCut is, it is a app that's like you make edits from it. It's also partnered with TikTok, so a lot of like the filters that you see when you log on to TikTok say made by CapCut or like filter is produced by CapCut. You can open CapCut directly in the app, and that'll allow you to use certain filters that you maybe can't on TikTok right away. But that app also went down with TikTok, and it's a pretty significant app in itself.
Right, yeah, like it's its own like editing. Like I use CapCut aside from like for you know creating our Instagram reels and stuff like that too. So it's pretty crazy.
Do you guys think that people jumping to other apps owned by ByteDance or similar to TikTok is an act of like rebellion? Like, it doesn't matter if you take away TikTok, we'll just do it with another app? Or is it because it was just, this is what's available to me? It's also Chinese owned and might get banned in the US, but I'm just gonna do it anyway. Or a combination of both. Because I feel like I had heard, nobody quote me on this, but people were purposefully demonstrating how they could expose personal data. And they're like, we literally don't care if we expose personal data. Because honestly, like you could get your data kind of stolen, like
it already
online
is.
shopping. Yeah. Literally, you could get it stolen at the grocery store. So I think a lot of people were like, if that's what it is, like we're trying to prove to you we don't care, we'll give it to another app. And maybe I don't know if that's why they were like, we don't even care if it's Red Note, like we'll just do it.
Yeah. Well, number one, I want to talk like the data collection, everything. I was watching, you know, because I'm very well filmed. I'm a cinephile. Okay. Thanks, Jack. But I was watching Citizen 4 last night, which is the Edward Snowden documentary, and our data's already being stolen. So it really doesn't matter where it's coming from. But I don't think that's the point. I don't think people are like, I don't even know if it's about rebellion. Number one, you saying that it was like the number one TikTok, like the number one app after TikTok was banned is crazy to me, because I thought that those were fake people made up by media like commentators that like, oh, all these teenagers are gonna be jumping from TikTok to Reddit. I'm like, no, they're not.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna. Okay, so those aren't fake people. I thought that they were fake
That's a
people.
real stat.
It's like the fake people that like, oh, like Taylor Swift is making people vote blue. Like I've assumed that those are like fake people, but I could also be wrong on
I mean,
that.
it's undeniable that it just has such big pull, and people obviously
Right.
were just really.
But
willing
that's
to
beside the
do
point.
it.
I'm just talking about fake people now that are made up in like the media. But that's crazy. I don't even know if it's rebellion. I think that it's more like desperation. But it's like what I'm doing is Instagram Reels, which is like not.
Right.
It's still like meta. It's still like it's the same. Everything is the same thing. We're
Right.
all talking about the
And
same.
that's what I think a lot of people were trying to demonstrate, like, U.S. government, if you're going to take this away, like, then what are you going to do? Ban all of their stuff? And then also, like, are you going to ban all, in this example, like, Chinese-owned apps? Like, are you going to ban Shein? Are you going
Right.
to ban, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Like,
the-
are you going to do that other stuff?
Yeah, no, I know. I think obviously the biggest thing with the TikTok ban is the concern over stolen data and that
Yeah.
foreign countries are having access to our data, and the U.S. obviously U.S. administration doesn't like that. But I just think that, like you said, it's the same kind of content. Like, I don't know if you guys remember Musical.ly back in the day.
Oh,
I know,
yeah.
I want to say back in the day, like around like,
Oh, yeah.
however long ago.
It's been like a decade.
Yeah, like 10 or so years,
Yeah.
I think, around 2015, 2016, when that like.
I was on Musical.ly.
Yeah, that kind of era. I was on Musical.ly as well, and hard to believe. You guys don't want to see those videos.
Roll the clip, guys.
You guys do not want to see those. They are long gone. I was.
They're not gone.
I
They're
was
out
a silly
there
little
somewhere.
middle school kid. No. I don't care if they're not gone. I will convince myself that they are gone. I do not want to
Throw
see
your
those
phone in a
again.
fire.
Yeah,
Burn all your
those are
data.
stuck on the iPhone 6. But yeah, so like Musical.ly's been around, and when that went down, there was still kind of a similar outcry, not obviously to the magnitude that TikTok had, but people were upset that Musical.ly was gone, and that was the same kind of content. You scroll up, the videos come, they keep coming pretty frequently, however many you want to watch, they'll keep coming, and I think that's just kind of a testament to what this is. Like, people are jumping to other apps like Instagram Reels and Facebook or whatever, and YouTube Shorts and stuff like that, because people just like this kind of content. The ownership thing, that's unfortunate, but the majority of the population that uses these apps, such as TikTok, they don't truly understand, I think, that what the actual concern is, because they're like, yeah, well, my data's being accessed. Who cares? I still want to watch TikTok videos. Like, that's what the population's saying. Whether they understand what's actually going on with it is the whole other point. But this kind of content has been around forever now,
Right.
Yeah.
and people are going to do whatever they can to keep getting it.
Yeah.
If I was a psychology expert, I would love to know what the immense need for doom scrolling like
It's like a
is. Just like,
dopamine.
yeah, it's like a
attention
dopamine. Yeah, it's
gratification,
dopamine receptor.
Yeah,
is a word that
sure.
I've heard.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Jacob. Like, if like this content's working and this format's working, and if people can't get it, they're just gonna look other places, no matter kind of what the ownership is on there. And Musical.ly is so interesting because TikTok is what Musical.ly was.
Yeah.
Like ByteDance bought Musical.ly and then like merged with TikTok. So people were concerned that Musical.ly was going away, but as a fan of the app at the time myself, I remember being like, okay, I'm not concerned so much as I am more just like confused, because I'm not concerned because I can see that they're going to give me TikTok, but I'm just confused why they're switching. I think in this case, it's like, okay, they're taking away TikTok, so now we are in charge of getting our own next thing, you know, like there's no other promise kind of being made on the other end of this. We're just taking it away. And people obviously, regardless if it's about an app or anything, that doesn't sit well with people when it's like, we're taking this away from you, we're not proposing an alternative, like end of discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. There's not much of a future outlook right now, and I think that's also, we mentioned earlier in the episode, a little bit of the scare that people might have. I feel like this is a legitimate scare that people are having, not as much like the income side, that's another scare that people are having, but like they just don't know what's next. And obviously I know it sounds a little bit different than if people are relying on this to make money and stuff like that, but you got people that, like, you got little kids on this app that like generally just like watching these videos. They follow their favorite creators. They're giving all this endorsement, all this attention. You got TikTok shop creators that are relying on endorsements, and they're selling their own products and stuff. And you got people that are just genuine fans. And some of them may be a little bit too young to understand. Some of them may be able to. But I think that's a really good point. People don't know what's next for TikTok, but also like the quick 30-second, 15-second scrolling video industry. It's a real thing.
Yeah. TikTok shop is a really good point. I didn't even think about that. Because, like, I mean, that affects American small businesses as well who use TikTok Shop to sell their stuff. Ugh.
Yeah, it's very similar to kind of what we're saying. Like, people rely on an income from TikTok, whether it's actually creating the videos and they're kind of just getting paid to dance or do whatever they do. But TikTok Shop is an actual business. It's a very, very successful business at that. People are posting, like, I don't know how much you guys have seen ads on your TikTok, but I'm sure you get those little ones where they have the little corner shop logo in the bottom left of the TikTok video. It's like you can buy the product, and like they've come up on my feed plenty of times. I've seen, and that's like it's also been like a little bit of a shift in advertisement in a way. Like digital advertising has gotten a little bit different, I think, as a result of TikTok, just because it's been so easy. You can give commission to anybody. You can see like 17-year-old teenage boys advertising like a men's underwear brand. Like it happens. Like it's a real thing. I know that was a very weird first example to come to my mind. I don't know what was flowing through my mind there, but like like I may have seen an ad like that, and it's
So anyone can sponsor or be.
So don't question what I'm watching, please, because like I said, I log on the app like once a day. Like it's very random. We got everybody in the room. Everybody in the room's laughing, but to my point.
The point is anybody can get commission on anything.
Yes, and whether it's a 17-year-old boy that's selling on. Or it is someone that is dancing at the Hype House for views. Like it's a real thing. People are genuinely concerned. The TikTok Shop is a real thing as well, but that also just goes along with the point that I was going to back in the first place. The future's uncertain. Claire, you made a very good point about that. People really don't know what's next, how they're going to continue their commission, how they're going to continue to handle their small businesses, because there's Instagram Reels doesn't have an Instagram Reels shop. YouTube
Maybe
Shorts,
there will.
Maybe there will.
That's horrifying, honestly, to think about.
Am I going crazy? Is there not an Instagram shop?
I think there is an Instagram shop, but like it's not like. I think there is, but it's not like directly associated with the Reels section of the app, and like YouTube Shorts has YouTube Shorts, but there's not a YouTube shop, like that kind of thing.
I'm gonna need to read a book after this.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, this and the brain rot episode.
After that, we were like, we need to go like touch grass or something.
Yeah, I know. I need to go on like a mental cleanse after this, because this is really.
I'm gonna get a flip phone actually tonight.
Yeah,
so.
I'm gonna just go off the grid or something. This is.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any final points that they'd like to make about the TikTok ban or anything? I feel like we
covered.
Cleaned up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we covered a lot.
The floor a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't leave any dust.
We'll see what happens in.
Yeah.
I guess it's less than 90 days now. But
in the meantime, I'll be watching Instagram Reels.
Yes. You can get on the wrong side of those too.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! Yeah, no, those are.
Is there a right side to Instagram?
I don't think so. I don't think I've seen
it's a dark place.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Good luck with your doom scrolling.
Next week, we talk about dating reality shows.
Yeah, quick switch.
Yeah, we're just changing topics. We're very versatile here at the House.
Yes.
Well, thanks guys. Bye.
Take care.